Okay, so I'm Mark. I'm going to cover the recent LINX2 refresh along with the forthcoming Manchester hardware refresh, and then Mo will cover operations and maintenances, with Richard covering internal developments. So we've now completed a migration from the disaggregated IP Fusion platform, which has served us very well for the last 8 years, but was approaching end of life, over to the new Nokia 7720 IX RD platform. This is the same platform that we deployed on a smaller scale at LINX Nova, as well as in Kenya, and more recently in Saudi Arabia. For LINX2, we are also deploying the D5 variant of the platform, enabling 400 gig support. So taking a look at the platforms we've deployed, we decided to deploy 3 IXRD models for LINX2, where previously for smaller builds, we'd standardized on the D3. With the increase of 10 gig ports and also the need for supporting 1 gig at some sites, we deployed the D2 platform too, along with the D5 for 400 gig, which is also used as the spine switches. So the 3 platforms are the D2 with 2 terabytes capacity, supporting 1 and 10 gig. The D3 with 3.2 tera, supporting 100 gig and 10 gig in 4 by 10 gig breakout. And the D5 with 12.8 tera using QSFP DD ports. Here we're connecting members at 400 gig and 100 gig in 2 by 100 gig mode due to the need to support LR4, and in some cases at smaller sites where we've deployed a single switch using to deliver 10 gig in breakout mode 2. All the spine switches are D5s, and connectivity between sites is a connection of 100 and multiples. Sorry, combination of 400 gig and multiples of 100 gig. So looking at the migration steps we took. So for the build, pre-staging and migration, this took place over a 4-month period between November last year and February. We initially did a complete parallel build of the new network site by site. We then built an NNI to bridge the 2 networks, which was configured as a member port on each side of the network to allow traffic flows between members on either side of the network. This was then turned up in December, and we used probes connected on each leaf to verify connectivity across the 2 networks. We then had an extended soak period over the Christmas period where we monitored for any issues, and then the migration took place over 6 separate maintenances in February. In terms of the execution, so the maintenances are spread out over a 3-week period, with Telehouse North 2 used for the initial pilot site. For migration, for the remaining maintenance, we had separate teams at each site and multiple remote engineers responsible for the configuration deploys and verification, allowing multiple sites to be migrated in a single maintenance window. We then left the 2 largest sites, Telehouse North and Equinix, to be migrated in 2 separate final maintenances. After each maintenance, traffic across the NNI was closely monitored to ensure capacity was never exceeded. And then one thing that helped significantly in shortening the number of maintenance needed was the use of our automation platform, which allowed us to bulk migrate what ended up being over 140 members in one of the maintenance windows. It was removed the need to manually build in the configuration files, so eliminating issues with typos. The port migrations were simply prepared in a technical service inventory, then a single NCA push was performed to remove members on the old infrastructure, and then a further config push deploying on the new platform. So members could focus on physically migrating the ports and validating post-migration. If we did have issues with the member ports following the move, we could be confident it wasn't a fat finger issue, so it could focus the troubleshooting more efficiently. Another thing we made use of was the custom CLI commands that are available in SR Linux. So this allows for multiple metrics such as port state, MAC address change, light levels, etc., to be displayed in a single output and in an easy readable format, which aided in post-migration, post-port health checks. In terms of redundancy, well, we're now running Nokia on both LIN1 and LIN2. We do have complete vendor separation and resiliency still. Both the 2 platforms running different hardware and software, We're then taking the additional step of running different mainline software versions to prevent bugs getting introduced. And then we'll be looking to upgrade LIN1 devices soon to 2510 once testing's been completed. The SR Linux platforms are all running 24.10. So looking ahead to Manchester now. So following the successful LIN2 migration, we are turning our attention to Manchester. As with LIN2, Manchester is currently running EdgeCore and IP Infusion. We're currently going through the final stages of vendor review, but the process is, the preliminary selection is imminent, which will then likely result in a POC. On the completion of a successful POC, we're looking to complete that early Q3. After that, this should enable us to perform a parallel build late this year. Then, as per LIN2, we will have a monitoring phase over the Christmas period, and then migrations, hopefully early next year, all subject to vendor equipment timelines. As with LIN2, we're looking to have all sites 400 gig capable from day one. We're also looking at 800 gig potentially here too. And now for Mo to cover operations and maintenances.
Hi, I'm Mo. I'm going to update you on the operational issues that we've encountered since the last LINX meeting, update on what planned maintenances are coming up, and a quick update on where we are with route servers at LINX. Okay, so this is a list of the incidences that we've had since the last LINX meeting. For systems, things like including route servers, collectors, monitoring, and things like we've had 0 incidents. For LIN1, it says here we had 3, but actually it's 4. I'll outline those 4 in the next upcoming slides after this. For LIN2, we've had 2 instances. Both of these were on consecutive days on the 5th of January and the 6th of January, and were part of an unresolved bug that we had with our EdgeCore IP or OPNOS platform, where we saw reachability issues with differences of MAC addresses in the software MAC table and the hardware MAC table. To mitigate those, we did some actions, such as move the traffic away from the edges and bounce VV and VXLAN interfaces. But the good news is now, as Mark mentioned, we've had a LIN2 refresh to Nokia, so we shouldn't see those bugs or these kind of issues replicate themselves. For LINX Manchester, we had an outage there at Luna Digital on the 12th of March, and that was caused by an automation task where we downgraded a 100 gig port to a 4 times 10 gig port, which triggered a bug and then rebooted the edge device there, leaving the members isolated. To avoid that situation again, we've put a workaround on automation so that shouldn't happen again. LINX Wales and LINX Scotland had 0 incidences. LINX Nova had an incident. I've got a slide on that as well. For Jeddah and Riyadh, we had some out-of-bound issues with our supplier on that side. Manx IX 0. It should be 0 because we've now decommissioned that site early in the new year. For Nairobi and Mombasa, and Accra, these 15 incidences are all dark fibre outages and range from problems such as, unfortunately, do things like vandalism, construction work in the area, and even maintenances that overran. So looking more detail into LIN1 outages, on the 17th of January, we had an outage in Edge2 TSAM at Cloud House West, where one of the line cards failed due to a communications error and caused the MDM module to then power down the card and offline all the ports there. The actual line card rebooted itself, and the outage lasted about 2 minutes. We escalated the issue, reported the issue to our top-end attack, and they confirmed it was a known issue and it should be fixed in future software upgrades. On the 29th of January, we had members reporting to us some packet loss on our Core 3 IN2 router in interaction or digital realty interaction. Engineers were actually on site and mitigate the issue on the same day by replacing the optics on both sides of the ISL where they had the errors on. Once we did that, the first year we took out the aggregate and then placed optics and put it back in, and the packet loss obviously just disappeared. It's been stable ever since. On the 20th of February, 26, we had a line card failure in the FPCC of core 4 THW at Tillyhouse West. Line card went offline, and when we tried to power it back up, it didn't come back, so we swapped it out with a spare. In Nova, we had one more outage. It wasn't on the slides. On the 28th of May, we had an outage in Core 4 TCH and Equinix Harbour Exchange where a member line card suffered triggered a rare bug that caused the card to go offline as well. The card did come back successfully with all the member connections coming back. No issues there, but unfortunately the route server connected to the same card was suffering from high CPU on the BGP process, so we had to restart. We had to restart that process for the route server to come back into operation. LINX Nova on the 8th of January 2026. The QTS Ashburn site was isolated for a period of about 3 minutes by human error. Unfortunately, we had remote hands working on a separate issue there, and they unfortunately touched the wrong device, causing the Edge there device to reboot. Planned maintenance is coming up. We're continuing with route server upgrades, OpenGP upgrades on those route servers, and Bird 2 upgrades on our LINX collectors. We'll also see maintenance announcements in the next quarter for software upgrades on our Nokia SRS kit on NUN1. For route server updates, we're still continuing, so we are upgrading OpenBGP route servers from version 8.8 to 9.0. So far, we have completed the upgrades in LINX Wales, LINX Nova, and both the Kenya LINX sites there. We'll also then progress to do the route servers, Bird route servers, from 2.13.1 to 2.17.2, but we'll do that after we've completed upgrades on the LINX collectors. We'll also perhaps look at planning a deployment of Bird 3, as Bird 2, I've been told by the developers, will have its last major release next spring in 2027. We'll perhaps get that ready for deployment, make sure it's tested first and stable before we deploy it, but we'll probably deploy it somewhere small first, maybe like LINX Wales. We have an upcoming maintenance next week to do some work that's kind of been a long time coming to do. We're going to be renaming our London route servers so that both LANs have an RS1 and an RS2. It does sound like some simple work, but actually there are some very small and long tasks to do for each of the route servers. So that will happen next week. I think a maintenance announcement has gone out. Please consider it at risk, but we're not changing any appearing IP addresses of the route servers. We're just doing some of the work for the looking glass, automation, and things like that. So just be aware of that. Thank you. That's it. I'll pass you on to Richard for internal developments.
Thanks, Mo. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, so we spend a lot of time at the event talking about, or technology, talk about the external development that we do, and we do a lot of work on that. But I also wanted to touch a little bit on some of the internal work that's going on this year that hopefully brings improvements to the way that we can continue to support the membership and to work through quicker fault resolutions and hopefully cut out some of those human errors that Mo pointed to there. So one of the things Mark mentioned was the fantastic self-service or the automation we've put in place internally as well as externally, and that really helped us on the London 2 project when we did the migrations. And say the engineering time for us to do those migrations was greatly reduced because of that tool. And we spent a lot of time in 2025 investing in that tool, and it really does sort of pay off. I mean, the self-service, member self-service has been around for a number of years now. I think you can see from the graph there, probably around about 80 events per month. Each one of those columns there is a different set. If you drill into the detail, you get the slides that tells you what type of action, whether it's a private VLAN, a cloud connect, whether it's a port change or a MAC address change that you're doing. So that self-service is going. You can see from January, which is the fourth one in from your right, fourth one in from your right is when we introduced the new 4 gig service, and we saw a lot of members go in and start making a change. That the 2026 activity there is averaging around about 110, 115 across those first 4 months of the year. So we see every month now a good 100+ events where people are going in and doing self-service on that. So as well as the advantages it brings to the engineering team when we're doing projects like Manchester and London 2, there's obviously a huge amount of return on the investment that we've done in the self-service for the membership as well. And what that means is with that, any new products that we do look to develop, we'll build them into the automation workflow. But hopefully that means now that we can move on to focus on other areas. And I wanted to touch on two other ones. One is security and the other one is AI, because everyone needs to talk about AI now. But they're both a little bit connected, and a lot of it is internal. And if there's something that you're interested in when you do the survey, I would ask you to flag if there's things that you want us from technology to talk about. Well, look, this is what LINX are doing. Please put that into the survey, and we can build a presentation that comes back and talks about that. In fact, tomorrow we've got a security workshop. There's 2 or 3 workshops that we're running tomorrow. There's the investigation into the recent ops issue. There's the security workshop, and I think Mike's running a product workshop as well. So we're trying out these workshops, and it might be that in the future we do an AI workshop if there's enough interest in that. But I just wanted to touch on the security. I think Julian is around today, Julian and Tim from our security team. I can't really see because of the bright light coming in at me. But I'm sure Julian will be happy to take any questions on this, but he'll be around tomorrow for the workshop as well. And I think the main thing here is from a security point of view, we're seeing a real shift, as I'm sure many of you are, in the way that external threats are materializing, and the speed and the type of threats that are coming through. And I think a lot of that comes back to AI generated exploits, and there's been a lot of coverage of that recently in the press. And that is impacting us, and we've had to put a lot of investment into 2026 around how we not only design our networks, but also how we do assurance penetration testing, and then how do we adapt systems to be more robust in the future. What we're seeing from an AI attack point of view, vulnerability discovery is time to find these vulnerabilities is greatly reduced. When we talk about how we operate, I'm sure many are still in the cycle of, you get an exploit, you patch and you mitigate, but the frequency and the volume of what's coming through now, the modes of operation probably aren't quite. I say the technology has outpaced the procedures and processes in place at the moment. So we're spending a lot of time at the moment now looking internally, reflecting, and then thinking about how we can not only invest in tools, but how can we invest in process updates so that we can get ahead of some of these changes in dynamics. And I'm sure, as I say, these are challenges across our industry. So we move, more from how do we protect and be robust into, well, we assume that there will be a compromise. We assume that we need to detect rapidly, we need to minimize blast radius, and we need to be able to contain automatically. And a lot of that investment comes down into the tooling that we have or we would like to have in place. And as I say, if these are any areas around zero trust architecture and some of the changes in tooling that you're looking at and you want to discuss, please bring that to the workshop tomorrow and have a chat with the team. Because, as I say, Julian's done a lot of research on this, and I know he's given one presentation before and would like to continue to engage with the community on giving some more presentations on this. So as well as security, which is probably close to sort of 50% of our internal effort, the other one is AI. And I wanted to touch on this because, I get asked, and I'm sure other engineers will get asked about, well, what are we doing? It was meant to build, this slide was originally a build one, so I could talk about each circle as they appear. But there's a few different areas that we are focusing on AI, and predominantly they're all about improving the membership experience, and that's really what we wanted to get to here. So I think Michael mentioned earlier in his presentation from Megaport about the Claude code explosion. I think we were the same. We started looking at Claude code in anger in sort of January, February when it came out into the market. We're now looking at Claude Teams as well. All of this is in the sort of automation area, how we can actually improve our software development. A lot of it, as I say, at this moment, it's experimental. It's on pilots, prototypes that are going on, and a lot of learning and reflection before we roll that out into any kind of operational systems. The other areas that we see developing are things like agents that sit within the TAC. So Juniper and Nokia are our two prime partners that we use for vendor support. Both of them have come to us and said, look, we're creating TAC agents that look into their case history and can be an interface into us so that we can work with the agents and get a richer experience in that area. The one down by the Atlassian services, if you use Atlassian, you probably use Rovo, which is their internal sort of buddy agent system that they've got in place. And we've been using that since it got released, and we're very happy with that. A lot of our fault analysis for internal knowledge base is on there. And what we're doing with the NOC, and this is the bit where I think we could really add the value back into the membership, is we're working not only with our own development teams, but also with a small external startup around how do we actually take the NOC experience that the membership see and interrogate the CRM, the database, and the Atlassian system, the agents that are embedded in those systems, and how do we actually get some kind of overall view, real time, about not only what's going on from events, but also, what's the fault database in the Atlassian system, cross-reference to the Despro ticket that the members are raising, cross-reference to the CRM, the database information around the services that we supply. And I think if we can start to tie them together in an intelligent way, we can respond to events, but also these events where we have, occasionally pop up that there's some kind of connection to across time. We can start to pull them together and make some really good improvements. But we are a small team. You saw from Mo's presentation, we've got a number of IXs we run around the world now. Operationally, especially overnight, we're talking about 2, maybe 3 people that are involved in the operational team. It's a small team. We might have 4 or 5 focused on it during the day. And the key is to develop these tools to really try and help the teams to go do a much richer job on supporting the technicalities of the IXs as we go around. I mean, the final one there to mention is maintenances. We're also looking at whether we can pass. We all send out maintenances. We all get maintenances in. They come in different formats. I know we've spoken in the past about standardized formats, but we are looking at using large language models to analyze email text to come in, categorize, and then feed that basically into our database automation system so that we can improve on that. And so that would be something, if we can get that working, we'll also share that with the membership if there's interest in other people adopting that. So I just wanted to touch on them, because if there's any areas that you are interested in yourself, you can put on the survey and we can do a workshop on that. If there's areas that you're working on that you think LINX would be interested in, we'd really like to appreciate to hear from you as well. And I just wanted to assure you that, even though we have limited resources, we are trying to look into and investigate these developments so that we can do a little bit more. And that's it, just to say thanks. If there's any questions, you can ask a question on any of the 3 sections, and I will try and answer if there's any questions. We've got one in the middle here, yeah.
Thank you. First, an observation, having had to listen to Juniper at Ripe go on and on and on about how they're getting their people to use Claude to support end customers and reconfigure switches and so on and so forth, and then sat down with them and found out that's not a skill they built, that's not a tool they've trained, that's not read any of their documentation, that's not following their best practices, and they've not even validated some of what it's doing. They're getting it to rely on upvotes on Reddit I would suggest you strongly do not let any of that crap, anything, anywhere near any of our networks.
Yeah, so we haven't.
For 1 second.
I think it's a very immature set of tools at the moment. So the one that we spoke to them about was actually they've got an agent that can look through TAC history. So if you're searching for a PR and you want to go through old case history, it cuts down the time to find things that are relative to your particular case that you can get a cross-reference. Certainly for the automated configuration part, we're steering clear of that certainly at the moment. So yeah.
Okay. The actual question is slightly different to that. Digital sovereignty has become the buzzword of the week and is being rammed down everybody's throats. How much of that could potentially impact LINX when you've got countries in Africa not wanting their data to go across other countries in Africa? You've got Europe saying all the data's got to stay in Europe, and you're now, obviously, you've got centralized tools, common staff, standard systems. Are you having to think about breaking that up and having walls between what Nairobi can see versus what London can see?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's maybe partly a question for Malcolm on the where data is. You know, so you sign the membership agreement and where your particular data resides. I mean, as far as operationally, we don't interconnect the region. So they essentially they are sovereign infrastructures in that sense. The monitoring, some aggregated monitoring is sent back to our central processes in London. Most of the data around the exchange's health will stay local in the pros and the captains and that. But I mean, it's a good question because at some point I think we probably will have pressure on us to say, well, if London went offline, I mean, we're doing it with with the TSAs. If London went offline, would other countries around the world survive? And I think we haven't been challenged on that, but. I don't know if Malcolm's sitting two people away from you, whether he wants to comment on that, but that certainly could be something that I think comes up in the future.
I'm not going to add too much, to be honest. There is a distinction here, of course, between the operational side and the customer management side. On the customer management, member management side, everyone's a member of LINX. And LINX is a company in the UK, and you sign a membership agreement in the UK. It's a membership agreement under English law, governed by English rules, and that's the way we operate for all exchanges. And whichever exchange you join, that is the case.
Thank you, Malcolm. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for the question. So I know we've got John coming up now, who's going to give us I'm doing Inga's job now. Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry.
But I'll be at the workshops tomorrow. So if you've got anything you want to bring to the workshops, the security one, the operational issues one, products, please, come and speak to me tomorrow. But yes, otherwise, thank you.